Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Virtual DEVintersection. My name is Jeff Fritz, and I'm joined today by Mr. Carl Franklin. Check him out over there. Hello, Carl. Good to see you.
The man with the crazy hair. It's crazy hair day for me. Got to do something with this. My hair is waving goodbye.
Yeah, it's getting ready to depart.
No, I don't think it's departing. It's just getting, I don't know, it's getting wiry in my old age. You know?
Oh, my
Your
God.
hair comes off your head and comes out your ears and your eyebrows. I had to trim my eyebrows.
I've been doing... Yeah.
That's crazy. I never thought it'd be crazy. I don't know.
I've had the eyebrow problem for years now, and it's just something that I've had to deal with. I don't know, it's the German in me, and I've got eyebrow things going crazy. I don't know. So, how's it going there, chat room? Carrie Payette says it's the new style, Carl. The wiry hair and crazy eyebrows.
Wiry hair, crazy eyebrows, Google glasses.
Yeah. You know. It's all over the place. Hey, Copperbeardy, good to see you, chat room. Stelzy's here. Someone randomized Carl's hair. It's chaos theory, and it's Carl's hair.
Next bites.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, do you want, in case folks don't know who you are, you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure. My name is Richard Campbell, and I live in Canada, and I hunt moose and smoke meat. No, that's not true.
No.
All right. Yeah, I've been around in the developer world in one way or another since the early 90s.
Oof.
I started my career, and I happened to work for a guy who wrote what turned out to be Visual Studio Magazine. He was sort of like the first content editor and contributor to it. Was called Basic Pro back then. And I worked at this Crescent Software company, which was a tool vendor company. So I know a lot about tool vendors from my experience there. And I started writing articles, and then I took over the Q&A column, and then I started speaking at VBits, and then it turned into VS Live, and then I got into Dev Connections and DEVintersection. So I've been speaking for a long time. I had a Visual Basic homepage with Gary Wisniewski back in the 90s, which was very popular. And then I started Dotnet Rocks as a podcast after I had been doing training, my own training company, when .NET came out, and I was doing .NET and ASP.NET classes, hands-on classes. And then the Dotnet Rocks thing started in 2002, and it just took off, and right place, right time, and all the planets aligned, and everybody's got podcasts now. But I'm hard-pressed to think of any others that are still going from those early days. 2002 is when we started.
There's something to be said for the longevity of .NET Rocks, right? It's been around a long time. Tremendous library of episodes there. Kudos to you and Richard on that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a history of our march forward through where we are today, which I think is sort of the pinnacle of .NET. And if you had asked me after SanofskyCon, which was build, when was that?
2014, 2013?
Yeah, when Windows 8 came out.
Yeah.
To build, and we were like, where's the .NET? There's no, it's all HTML and JavaScript, and Richard and I were so concerned that we started another podcast called The Tablet Show, and we continue to do .NET Rocks, but we did this tablet show to sort of answer Microsoft's direction with all things that, .NET used to be pinned to Windows.
Oh, yeah.
And that was Microsoft, Sanofsky's really last-ditch effort to get people into the Windows ecosystem by sort of luring them in with web stuff. And, they wanted to sell Windows. And they realized after that, no, it's not going to work. People don't want to buy Windows anymore. So it turned out that, now they have free versions of Windows for certain screen sizes, and less about making money on Windows, and now open source everywhere, and it's all about Azure and services. That's how they make their money. So
absolutely.
So we rode that, that roller coaster
Yeah.
the whole day. And a lot of your listeners have, and you did, and
Oh my gosh, yes.
and
Yeah.
it's been a wild ride, huh?
Just want to check one thing. Every now and again, I get a blip coming off of your camera. It kind of loses hold for a second.
It may not have taken its vitamins this morning.
Oh, it didn't take its V8.
Yeah.
There we go. I have sound effects here. I gotta find the sound effects.
See if that helps.
Let me see. I gotta turn up and see. I do have the sound effects we can drop in here. There's plenty of those.
That might just be a bandwidth thing, but I have plenty of bandwidth here. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Carrie says Dotnet Rocks is the same age as my middle child.
A junior in high school. Oh my gosh. Someone fed the Gremlins after midnight at Carl's place? Could be. Could be. Weird things happen like that.
Wait, yes, we've already commented on my wild hair today. Sorry.
It's really Carl Headroom, not Carl Franklin.
Yeah, it's Carl Headroom, right?
Any relation to Carl Franklin, the musician? Yes.
Carl. Sorry.
Yes, this is Carl Franklin, the musician. Hugo.
Yes.
Author and performer of Music to Code By, our favorite.
Yep, that's right.
Oh my gosh. So
I just put a couple of videos of last Saturday's performance in New London.
Yeah.
Babylon Sisters by Steely Dan.
Okay.
Could share that link if anybody wants it. I'll find it.
Sure, you can drop that in the chat room for our friends there.
Sure.
And it's I'm watching the chat go by. So there's all kinds of great things that have happened here. We saw .NET Core 3 was released last week. If you're watching this live with us, if you're watching it on YouTube or somewhere else after the fact, .NET Core 3 was released last week or last month.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Or in September, depending on when you're watching. And all kinds of great things came with that. In particularly, that's easy for me to say. The big framework thing that came with this, the user interface framework that came was Blazor. Server-side Blazor is released. It's out there. It's real.
Yes, it is.
And you've been exploring this, and you've had some pretty good experiences with it.
Yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, I rewrote our back end. You know what? Hang on. I have to put in a Twitch code here. I can share this URL, and I'll tell you about that.
Sure.
So I can post. There, that should do it. Hang on. Twitch DEVintersection. There I am.
Hugo says a major thank you for Music to Code By, Music to Float By. Soothing and focusing. Love it. Loyal subscribers. Yeah.
All right, I'm back. So yeah, Blazor. I originally was really fascinated, like most of us are, on the WebAssembly version of Blazor, the client-side Blazor, and it wasn't until you came on .NET Rocks and sort of said, no, this server-side stuff is where it's at.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, is that the same as Razor Pages? Well, kind of, but there's this background SignalR hub that is constantly sending UI updates to the client, and yet you write all your stuff on the server. It's that experience of web forms where I have a button click and a button click event.
Yeah.
And I just put code in the button click event, and that magically fires on the server. But instead of refreshing the entire page round trip and sending view state and all that other garbage that doesn't scale and you can't test, well, it's not garbage, but it is. It's bulky stuff that gets in the way, and we could do better. We should, and this is better.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yes.
Yeah, we're just sending changes. We're just sending, or notifications. Yeah, this user has updated. Go get him again and put all his details in there. And I also fell in love with the ease of binding. It took me a little while to figure it out because I I had started working with it at Preview 7.
Mm.
And then Preview 8 came out, and the position of the @ sign changed, and
yes.
all the stuff that was on the web that shows you how to do all this great Blazor stuff didn't work anymore, and I had to figure that out. So a little translation and a little growing pains there, and then Preview 9, and then everything works great, and then it came out just a couple of days ago, week ago.
Yep.
And and then I figured out how to do all the stuff that real websites need to do, like authentication, authorization, throw some web APIs in there. It is just another ASP.NET app. And depending on the services that you register in startup, you get Blazor, you get static pages, you get identity, you get authentication, you get API, static files, whatever it is you want. You just add them.
It feels almost too good to be true that we've got, once again, a very component-driven framework, user interface framework.
Yeah.
We can do the event handling that you kind of expect, that it makes rapid application development acceptable for us, right?
Right.
And we have all the good things that you want for a proper Web 2.0 application.
So the application that was the holy grail for me, and the thing I cut my teeth on, was moving the vanilla JS back of house kind of admin tool that Richard and I use, and other people for other podcasts and I use, to set up shows and add guests and their metadata, add sponsors and that metadata, and audio files that are linked with the shows that we upload,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can download them and edit the show. Ads, as I said, links and tags and all of that stuff. So it's a real forms over data kind of application, and it needs to have security, and it needs to, we have to be authorized to use it, obviously. And I was able to do all that. The vanilla version took me weeks. This was me just saying, you know what, I don't want to use any frameworks. I don't want to use Angular. I don't want to use Vue or React or any of these things. I just want to understand how vanilla JS, HTML, all that stuff work under the hood in a real application setting, not just, samples and stuff. So that's why I took it on myself to do that. And it was so hard, and I ended up having to write functions that spit out HTML. It was ugly, but it worked.
Okay.
And it was awesome. But it took weeks and weeks and weeks. And the Blazor version, I literally had a working model without bells and whistles in, I would say, a man week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 48 hours, I'm saying.
But is there, to be fair, had you already figured out some of the edges that you needed to develop there, and you were just transposing what you'd already done with JavaScript, or did you really see efficiencies there?
I really saw efficiencies.
Okay.
The biggest time saver was all the vanilla JavaScript. And, it's not really fair, because vanilla JavaScript compared to Angular or React or Vue is going to take a lot longer as well, right?
Sure.
But I found that this was just a natural for me, that I really didn't have to learn a whole bunch of crazy binding stuff. I can build components, and I did. I separated all the editors into different components. And it was just a great experience. It was a joy. It was delightful to write this code.
For those of us that are longtime C# .NET developers, right? I feel like when we start programming with Blazor, David Henmeyer Hansen, DHH, when he wrote Ruby on Rails, described that using Ruby on Rails felt like they had put a glove on his brain. It just fit perfectly, and thought it worked the way that you thought. And I feel like that's what's happening with Blazor. It works the way that we already think.
I agree. So you want me to show you this application?
Absolutely. Let's go take a look at that and make it better. Make it more impressive. There it is. And we'll go take a look. Let me flip over to that view. I have buttons that take me to these different views. We're going to go to your desktop. There we go. And for some reason, I'm hidden here. No. Hang on. I do have another view here that looks better. 1 second. Was it this one? Yeah, it was that one. That view's better.
Hey, cool.
There we go.
That's cool because there's nothing really happening on that side of the screen. So
that's right. So we'll just put us over here.
Just put us there. Right. So this is something that I hadn't figured out how to do until after I had written the app, which is sort of do some authentication and authorization.
Okay.
And, doing this before .NET Core was pretty easy to just go into the database and add people to roles and do all that stuff. I found that a little more challenging with .NET Core and the stuff that just comes out of the box. So what I did was I found this identity manager, and this is an open source project, and Brock started it, Brock Allen, and then, he handed it over to some people, and I made a database in Azure using the SQL script that is in the identity app.
So, right, this is Identity Server you're using.
This isn't Identity Server.
Oh,
This is Identity Manager. This is an open source thing just for adding users, adding them, managing roles, putting users into roles, that kind of thing, working with the default identity database. This is free. It's open source. But like I said, I had to set up the database, and then I had to point both the Identity Manager app and my app itself at that same database.
Okay.
All right. So you can see here that I've got some roles. I've got admin, which is me, and I have 3 podcasts that I'm working with right now. Ken Edit, 2 Keto Dudes, Run As Radio, and Dotnet Rocks. And I just have these roles to see who can edit what, right?
Okay.
Then back in the users, you can see that I have admin access, and I can edit all of these shows. Richard can edit Run As Radio and Dotnet Rocks, as he has nothing to do with 2 Keto Dudes, so I don't even need to do him. And this is just some other stuff I'm messing around with, and a friend of mine I wouldn't allow to take it for a spin. So I can register here as a new user, right? And that's why you saw that carl@plop.com email address right there. But if I want to log in, I can log in. Now I'm logging in as carl@franklins.net. And now this is like the typical stuff that you'd see. Now I have the 3 shows that I can edit, that I have access to over on the right. So how did I do that? These shared Razor pages right here, main layout, nav menu, and login display, are all about that. So main layout says we want the nav menu on the side, right? We want the login display on the top, and then the body. Now the login display has what's called an authorized view. And so this authorized view is just HTML that you can show for authorized people and for not authorized people. All right, so if I'm authorized, I get hello identity name. And if I'm not authorized, register or login.
Now, this reminds me, right, the authorized view reminds me of the old login view that we had in web forms.
Yeah.
Where, right, if you're not logged in, you got one section. If you are logged in, you got the other section.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
And then the nav menu, check this out. I've got authorized view here, but required roles for each of these graphics, right? Dotnet Rocks, 2 Keto Dudes, Run As Radio.
Nice.
So I only see those graphics and get those links if I'm authorized to see them, if I can edit those shows. If Richard logs in, he will not see this authorized view because he's not in that role.
Sure.
Right? Now, he could try going to show edit 2 Keto Dudes, but I've also got authorization code in the show editor itself, which I can show you. So you're going to laugh, but I'm still using counter.razor as my edit page. And the only reason is I just bumped up against some stuff that I didn't want to NuGet in there in order to do it right, and whatever. I didn't figure that out yet.
Okay.
By the time I had figured that out, this was already working, so fine. So I said, screw it. If I change the name of counter razor to something else, it barfs, and it's done, even though none of the code changes. Okay. So check this out.
Okay.
I've got this variable called shows, and if it's null, I'm loading, and if it's not null, then I have all my stuff. So going back here, if I click .NET Rocks, I'm loading. Now I get all of my shows.
Nice.
Here's your show. Where is it?
Hey, look at that one right there, second from the bottom.
Right. And as I click that, all of the stuff comes up. I've got notes with my Better Know framework, and these are just notes for me, how I introduce you. If I change any of this, I can update the episode. There's you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your guest profile.
Oh my gosh, look at that hair.
Which I've hey, let's not talk about hair.
Well, that's why I wear a hat all the time on video, Carl.
There's nothing wrong with your hair.
No, I need to dye it blue again. We got to make that a thing.
All right, cool.
So, and over on my stream, every now and again I do this follower goal thing, and we hit our follower goal while I was at TwitchCon last week. So yeah. I'm going to be dyeing my beard rainbow for DEVintersection.
Neat.
Yeah, that'll be a picture to put up somewhere.
All right, so I'm going to edit these. I'm going to edit these notes here, and by the way, I can just scroll them down here. I'll edit this and say edited because the notes don't show up anywhere. I'll update the episode. There you go. You see just this little thing changes. Nothing else changes on the screen. It's a real spa app, right?
Yeah.
And now if I go to, another show and then back to you, and it goes and gets the details again, there it is. So
are you saving it on the fly as you make changes?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Nice.
And another thing that I did was I added a SignalR hub. So get this. If I can pull this up in another window over here. You can see that, right? Edge?
Yep, there we go.
All right, so let's pull this up. Plop admin.azure websites.net.
And this is using Blazor server-side.
Server-side Blazor.
Yeah.
So I added a SignalR hub so that two people, like if Richard and I are editing it at the same time, can automatically see our changes immediately.
Nice. All right.
So watch this. Let's pull this up in another browser. So this is a different person. Here's you, Jeff Fritz.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's my notes right there. Watch this. Uh-oh. It's not working. Oh,
well,
no.
That's
How about this way?
Are the local host and the production ones?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Of course. Yeah. Let's get out of localhost.
And
that makes total sense.
Right, and SignalR, for friends watching in the chat room, if you haven't seen it, right, SignalR is that live connection that you can get where the server pushes data into your client application.
Right. All right, let's do this.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I should get points for that here. I'm going to give myself some points for catching that. There we go. I got some points. Thank you. I don't know what you can use points for, but I got points. You get 100 of those and I might get an extra life.
All right, let's see now. Whoa. Yeah, one of these is a VM and the other one is not, so. Maybe I have to come back here. Yeah, all right, still not working. Not sure why. All right, but anyway, in a perfect world, that's what happens.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
we can see our edits, and like I said, I'm not sure why.
That's okay.
That's okay.
But the idea is it's primarily just 3 or 4 of you and your colleagues, the folks that are working on podcasts that are able to edit and work on these things.
In fact, right now it's just myself and Richard.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Don't need scalability, just need it to work and support the couple of things that you need.
Correct. And all right, so anyway, let's get rid of this guy. And you know, there is one thing that I noticed, and that is unhandled exceptions are nasty.
Yes.
Blazor server side, because it actually cuts the connection and doesn't tell the user.
Right.
What you'll find, the user will just say, all of a sudden it just stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you know, press F12. What does it say? If you've got red, you know, you've got a problem. So the lesson learned is use try catch everywhere.
Oh, for sure.
Even if you don't expect a problem.
I feel like there's almost a default, some sort of error handler interface that we want to be able to put onto these applications, so we can put up some sort of a message across the middle of the screen that says, oh, there was an error, you know, please refresh or something, you know?
Right. Yeah. Okay, where am I now? Let me go back into my app. All right, so let me show you how I did components. So there's so all of this code right here has a combination of my components and some third-party tools. And this is the main page, right? And then I have a parameter which comes in from this guy right here, nav menu, right? So the parameter is this guy. That's the show name.
Okay, so navlink is a hyperlink that it's creating to go to a page called show edit, some location called show edit, and as a second, the file name, whatever, at the end of it. There you go.
And so, yeah, so show name I've decided is a parameter.
Okay.
And that's how I did that. So now there's all in the code down here, there's a on parameter set override, which, by the way, happens after the other one that everybody uses, which is
on init.
Right? On
initialize now.
Initialize, yeah. So this happens after. So the parameter is set. So what I've done is a little magic here to get the user, the auth state, right? This is the user in here. And if I do a little authorization checking, right? If a user is in role, can edit .NET Rocks, and the show name is .NET Rocks, I have another is allowed to view. I also have other variables that I set that I use basically that are show dependent. Right? Containers that I'm using for images, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And then I have a load all shows, right? And this uses a service that I've injected called show service.
Okay.
And show service, as you can see, I started out using an API. You know, this API right here. And then I asked myself, why? Why do I need this? Like, I don't plan on exposing this to any other apps. I don't necessarily want to pay for another web API thing in the cloud.
Sure.
And the only people who are using this is me and Richard, and maybe another guy, right? So instead, I made this data, basically a data provider, right? And this is all static stuff, and it's basic ADO.NET and, you know, That's it. So I'm calling this guy from my show service instead of what I did first was a web API.
Sure. Can you do me a favor and pump up the font size there a little bit? Some folks are watching on smaller devices.
Yes, I can, and I'll do it everywhere.
It's funny, you don't have to set the font size when you're recording a podcast.
Right. It's true. Come on, fonts and colors.
Sanad Meskin asks, what does match equals navlink.matchall mean? Ah, the navlink matchall. Yeah. So
where are we?
So when you were looking at the navigation menu, with the navlinks there we go. On line 12, navlink.matchall.
Yeah, that's a good question. The matching behavior, I'm not sure. Actually, I think that was left over from something that I had put in there. But do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, so match all says it needs to, in order for that link to be highlighted and shown as active, right? And it'll put an active class on there. It has to exactly match the URL that is specified in the href. So it needs to match showedit/.NET Rocks. Otherwise, you can tell it, well, just match part of this.
I see.
Because there might be some arguments or things afterwards that are being passed in.
In that case, this on all of my...
I think you do, yeah.
All of them.
So that way, then you can put some sort of I think the class it puts on it is active. So you could set that active class, maybe it has a highlight, right? Maybe there's a CSS filter that puts a highlight around the image or something like that.
Right. Okay, so we get back to here. I hope you can see that now.
Yeah, I think that font size is a little better for you, right, chat room?
So, this is the idea that, if there's already a show that's selected, I have a selected show object, then I want to save that show number. After I reload, I want to highlight that show number, make sure that selected show is there. So let's just go top down here, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I have a show name, button, unclick, new show. So this is a place where I have, a local method here, new show.
An event handler.
An event handler. That's it, right there. I have all of these things where I'm filtering them out, and I get the dates and all of that stuff. I have now disabled the button for the new show, and I have, just Booleans to enable and disable buttons, which I bind to. It's pretty simple. And I can't remember why I used a Radzen checkbox here instead of a regular checkbox. I honestly don't remember, but I had started using some Radzen tools and I stayed with them. But I found that for Listbox, it was just easier to use the built-in stuff in Blazor. So I have this filtered shows because I can search, right? I have this search value. And this is a cool little trick. If I bind search value and use the bind event on input, every key gets...
It will trigger.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's a little trick that I learned from watching .NET Conf, actually.
So, hey, look at that. I know that event. So, that'll give you effectively like that type ahead searching.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll show you
cool.
I'll show you how it works. Yep. Maybe while I'm doing that, you can read some of these comments because I'm...
Absolutely. So there's some discussion around the Control Shift and scrolling to change the font size in Visual Studio. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one way to get around there. But
then you have to do that for every page, though.
Exactly. It's just for the current editor that it'll remember that zoom state.
All right. So check this out. If I do A-Z-A, right?
Nice.
Oops. A-Z-U-R-E. Now I only get things that have Azure in them.
Now, is that searching just the title?
Just searching the title.
Cool.
Yep.
And all the Blazor talks? Nice.
In fact, it was Dan Roth who showed me how to do that.
The
at
Dan
.NET
Roth?
Conf.
He had a fancy jacket there the second day of .NET Conf.
That was pretty cool, huh? All right. So
yes, we pulled a whammy on Dan at
so search value on input changes.
Yeah.
And filtered shows, get this, is just simply an array where the show title contains the search value. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to write any code, really, just a little lambda and you're done.
Right? You didn't have to write any kind of fuzzy logic, search engine, whatever. No, just get the contains, and it's enough for what you need. Searching against 1,700 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my gosh.
It's just so cool.
And the responsiveness that you were showing us there is, it's good enough. Right?
Yes.
You're not searching across a million records.
No.
And type ahead enough, man.
It's good enough.
Thing.
I mean, yeah, it's not like instant like you would have on a native app, but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
So show selected is what happens when you click one of these shows.
Okay.
And I have this string that I show if something was updated. I want to set that to nothing because this is a new show.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And again, I'm just pulling this out of my shows collection. You know, where the value is this is the args value is the show ID.
Right.
Yep.
Hugo makes a great point. This is a good reminder that not everything needs to scale if there's nothing to scale.
You're right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So that's it. And then,
So, all right. Do you want to do a little live coding, Carl?
Sure.
Can I suggest something here that might help you organize a little better? Because I'm seeing you have a Razor file with hundreds of lines there, and most of it looks like is C# code.
Yeah, that's right. You can do a code behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I purposely didn't want to do that just because I like having the code in here. But
okay.
Yeah.
To each their own. That's fine.
Yeah. There's the problem right there. Look at this.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that funny?
So you could probably change that maybe to just a
yeah.
/
Exactly.
admin hub?
Yeah, let's do that.
And see if that grabs it.
I could do this. I could put it right in there. Plop admin.azure websites.net.
So that'll always connect out to your production space.
That's right.
When you're testing locally, though.
Yeah, you're right. But I think I had to put the entire URL in there, or it complained. Let's see. Let's see if I can do that.
Yeah.
I think it complained, but let's see. It's funny. This is the first time I've ever shown anybody this code, so I'm finding things. This is the benefit of pair programming right here.
Yes, right. The mob programming, right? Some people get scared of, oh my gosh, I'm going to show my code, but you know what? There's something to getting feedback from some other folks here. Sinad Meskin says when they do that type of filtering of a preloaded list, they just hide the elements that do not satisfy the condition. Put some sort of a don't display if the name doesn't contain the search text. Okay. That's an interesting approach too. Just go through and just how would you hide from a select list, right? I don't think you can mark it as like hidden or not or display none.
All right, well, it doesn't look like it barfed.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah, okay. So that's good. So now let's see if our SignalR thing works.
The Mindful Coder asks, do we have shortcut posters on our desks? The shortcut key posters? No. It's it's from times with Well, so you're. Oh, they're both connect. Well, hang on. They're both connecting out to the production.
No,
Wait a
they're
sec.
not. No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
because
didn't.
you did the slash. So, is
Yeah,
there
I did.
anything in the JavaScript console when you hit F12?
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's do that.
See if make sure it connected properly. There it is. It's right above me. Nope, looks like it connected. Normalizing and information WebSocket connected to. Oh no! Wait a sec. That's only connecting to the Blazor WebSocket. It didn't connect to your SignalR.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't want to debug my app right here, but let's for now just I'll leave this as with a to do here. All right. Good enough. So where was that? Oh yeah. So let's talk about components.
Right.
So starting with the guest editor, I made all you have to do to add a component is right-click, add new item, and then Razor component right there.
There, let me hide us so folks can see that behind us.
Okay.
There we go. Now you can see what's happening there. Add new item. Yep.
Razor component.
Okay.
Pretty simple. And here's my guest editor. So up the top, I've got I'm using this namespace just in case there's any problems with stuff that I need to use from the component library. Here's my data namespace. I'm injecting the same service so that I can, so that I can access data.
Sure.
And all the stuff that I put in here is the same that I just copied this code because I did everything in one page first, right?
Sure.
And then it's got way too unwieldy. So I moved things around and I made components. So I tried to make the parameters only the ones that I needed in the component to do the job, right? That's the whole idea. So I didn't add, not all of the variables that are related to the guest or the show are in here, but everything that I'm going to need. And I also learned how to do a callback. So here's a guests updated that I can call. And back here, you can see that I've got handlers for those. Guest updated. And all of these parameters, I'm just passing in my local bound variables.
Okay, so let's look at guests updated here just a little bit closely. So the other items that you have there, so URL, selected show, those are clearly values you're passing in. But guests updated and guests canceled, those are functions that you're passing in. And right, so there's the function.
Here. So
how is that received inside the component?
So that basically is in the component an event callback parameter.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
Yep. So making them parameters makes them available to the outside caller.
Okay. And
whatever the value is, in the data type for the values, but event callback is exactly that.
Gotcha.
So let's just look at cancel pressed first. So let's find where cancel would be. There you go. So I have a cancel guest when I'm selecting, when I'm adding a new guest. Right. So let me just put a breakpoint here, and I'll put a breakpoint here, and we'll try this again. I'll try adding a new guest and then canceling, and you'll see that I get this handler in the main thing, which is good because this is where I want to change my UI about being able to add guests or not. And those are just Booleans that hide or disable the buttons while I'm adding.
Just a true-false switch.
Yep, that's it.
The Mindful Coder says, SignalR is really awesome, by the way. If you haven't tried it yet, you really should. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you don't need to have ASP.NET in order to run a SignalR hub. You can stand up the SignalR service in Azure and connect your whatever application to it.
Right. All right. So here I go. I've got my guests now. Adds an existing guest. Edit edits the current guest. Delete deletes the current guest. New adds a new guest. to the database and to the show. So here I'm searching for guests, and you can see I have that same kind of
The type ahead.
right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But now that cancel button. Boom. So this is in the guest editor.
Okay.
Right? And now I invoke that cancel pressed. And now, boom, that happens in the main page.
So you're bubbling the events back. Very cool.
It's a real component. Right? Add, cancel. Add, cancel.
Because, right, the size of this page just gets really unwieldy when you think about all the things that you're trying to edit and manage around.
Right.
In your case, you're managing data about shows, podcast shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'll show you another thing. So let's.
Yeah, the one I'm interested in I don't want to spoiler alert, but the one I'm interested in is down there below the file upload.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
So I'm doing 2 file uploads. I'm doing one with a file up. Well, both are using a file uploader.
Okay.
Control. Both are using a web API to receive the file data. This one right here is. Let's add a new guest called Doofus Rufus, and pick a photo here. Let's add this guy right there.
Okay, so you uploaded that immediately as it was selected.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've got to see how you do that. That looks cool.
Okay, so this still has a bug in it. There it is. It still has a /bug. Okay, I will fix that. But yeah, so that's what I was doing. If I did this again, yeah, all right, never mind. So that's essentially what I did.
That's really cool.
There's a
There's
bug
something
right
to be.
there, so now I'm saving this. I've edited Doofus Rufus, and see, here's what happens if you get an unhandled
right up there.
exception. Right up there. All right. So anyway, let me show you how I do this. I added an API controller.
Okay.
A file upload controller, and if you look in this guest thingamajigger, this component here, up here, no, not there, guest editor, we have a file uploader. So this is the new guest panel. So this is the one that saves a new guest to the database and to our show, right? And I'm using this Syncfusion file uploader.
Okay.
And this is really cool because I get a whole bunch of stuff. I get an event on file selected, which is great. And then I also get an event on photo uploaded after it's been uploaded, right? Now the save URL is a URL that points to my API. So I'm going to show you that. So this is sort of right out of their demo code, Syncfusions, but I had a little problem with this, which is that the default path was the default path. So it was allowing me to upload right into the main content directory.
Oh, that's a problem.
In their demo, in the demo code. So what I had to do was add another variable, a user GUID string, and make this multi-part form data so I could receive that. And then back in the guest editor, on file select, right, I added this custom form data, the container name. No, I don't think that's the right one. Let's see. Yeah, it is. No, yeah, it is the container name.
So when you were showing the callbacks there, the mindful coder notices that they all have arguments, but we don't seem to be using them. Right. Those are arguments about the state of the callback in Blazor. Those are the state of the buttons and things, the controls that we're working with.
Right. So basically, I take this. Oh, this is save chunk. That's why. This is not the user GUID string. here's the container name. This is save. So there's two of them. There's save for images, which are small, and then there's save chunked for the big files, the WAV files. That's when I need the user GUID string. All right, so save chunk, basically what I'm doing is uploading these, and it looks like I haven't changed that path yet. Yeah, I haven't changed that path. All right, but the container name is what I need because I'm resizing these images, which I've just got a little resizer, based on if the container name is DNR images or if it's 2 keto dudes, I have different sizes. So then I upload them to Azure using a Azure storage helper that I've written. Okay.
So I noticed you're going, when you determine the location up there, you said content root path.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the dub root, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So it's going to go into into the static collection.
It's going into an uploads directory. So that's good. And so that is going up into I'm basically uploading into my uploads directory. So it's away from all of my content files, right?
Yeah.
And then when I'm done, I just delete it from here. I only want it there so I can upload it to Azure.
Okay.
All right. Now that's for the images. For the big files, we use a save chunked. And this is where the GUID string comes into play because, let's say I upload a file called carl.wave and Richard adds one called richard.wave, and he goes to another show and adds one called carl.wave. I want this to be different. So in my guest editor, no, it's not in my guest editor. It's in my main page when I'm going to upload a raw file. Here we go. I have an on raw file select. And this is where I create a new GUID. Right? This was my joke before about next bytes for my hair because somebody randomized my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just get a GUID string. Right? And now I add that to my custom form data, user GUID string equals raw file folder GUID string, and that gets passed to my controller right there. So it's just a GUID, but my client has to know about that GUID because he's going to access the file. Right?
Yep. Access it later.
Access it later. And this guy is going to also go into, oh no, he doesn't go into Azure Storage, does he? No.
So there's
just stays in the directory.
There's a suggestion from the chat room on line 34, instead of concatenating with plus arguments there, plus operators, you could do a path.combine.
I could do that, yep.
So
absolutely. More than one way to write C#.
Absolutely. So
the next step for me here is to move this also up into Azure Storage because I don't want stuff hanging around in my www root, right? So there you go. There's that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's and this is the basic gist of it. I have components. I have one for guests. I have one for sponsors, or ads really. I have one for links, which is a lot more simple. I have one for tags. I have my show service, which sort of abstracts all of the data arguments away.
Right.
And I got this file API controller. Right now, so I think getting back to our signal R problem, where was that to do? I think I tried this before and it didn't work, and so I'm going to actually add this swap admin.azurewebsites.net. I don't really need to test this feature when I'm running locally.
Yeah.
And I will publish that guy. Publish him up to Azure, and then we'll try again with 2 different browsers.
So what I think is interesting is you're giving that ability for both you and Richard to work on the data at the same time and be able to see the changes. Particularly if you're doing those file uploads, you're going to want to be able to see, oh yeah, okay, Richard's file just arrived, Carl's file just arrived,
Right.
and be able to interact with those. And I love that you took this very complex edit of and management of all the different fields, broke it down into separate components. Did you ever get a feeling like you might have been able to reuse some of those components with a little bit of abstraction across some of the different fields that you had?
You mean have common things for each?
Yeah, reuse an editor with just a little bit of configuration being passed in.
Maybe, but there was only 4 of them, and so it didn't seem like it seemed like clipboard inheritance was the way to go.
Just get it done.
Yeah, just get it done.
Shipping is a feature.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. So we'll go there. I'll pull up Edge. We'll try this again.
To be announced. Ooh, that's my favorite type of show. TBA.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Make it work, then make it pretty. If you dare tempt fate, says Carrie.
Exactly.
Yeah. There we go. Hey, there it goes. Look at that. Clipboard inheritance. That's right, Mindful Coder. Absolutely. Copy and paste makes the world go round. And Doofus Rufus.
Episode here. Yep. There you go. So, we got that working. Found a bug. It's all good. Great. Can I answer any more questions?
Yeah, what do you think, chat room? I mean, there's definitely something to be said for, right? Only architecting what you need, only building what you need. You don't need to abstract away things that are just a little bit more complex.
I almost forgot shameless self-promotion.
Sure, go for it.
I decided to do an online workshop where we build an app like this in one day. And it's not going to be exactly like that, but it'll have all of the elements. It'll have the file uploading, it'll have components, it'll have SignalR, it'll have adding an API, and all of that stuff. And I'm doing that on November 4th. And if you go to blazor.appvnext.com, that is the URL that gets you here to this crazy Eventbrite thing.
Cool.
It's $125. It's one day. It's all hands-on and working together. It says up there that we're going to use Twitch, but we'll probably end up using Zoom.
Okay.
Just because I need to be able to control who can and can't see it.
Yeah. And of course, you've got sessions at the DEVintersection event coming up here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my session is all about poly. And
now poly isn't a parent or something polymorphic.
Although the come on. The logo for poly is.
Yep.
And so this is a policy driven transient error handling. So this is an amazing project. If you haven't seen it, just go to GitHub, appvnext poly. It's easy. Install package poly, and then you can essentially create these simple policies, for handling particular exceptions or whatever exceptions. And then what do you want to do when that happens? Here's a 3 times retry, and then on retry you get code right here in this Lambda, and that's all in the policy. and then you execute your code with that policy. There's just a whole lot of different things. So step 3 is to execute the policy.
Oh yeah, very cool.
So-
Folks in the chat room are saying Poly is really cool. It is, absolutely. Much
really
easier
cool.
than setting up your own try-catch setup with timeouts. Yeah.
And it's kind of like a big wrapper around try-catch anyway. I mean, it's really what it is. If you go into the source code, it's really cool. So I'm going to go through the demo app that comes with Poly, and there's a wiki. It's all that stuff. So in my talk, I'm going to go through each one of these and discuss them and show them and demo them.
Cool.
And Poly is also in .NET Core.
In .NET Foundation.
Well, it's in the .NET Foundation, but it's also used in .NET Core, and I think it was 2 point something where they implemented this in HTTP Client Factory.
Okay.
So in HTTP Client Factory, you can specify what kind of retry policies you want, and it will just do it for
Using
you.
Poly.
Using Poly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hugo comments, I wish that the various methods were better explained, so maybe a little documentation help. Is there an opportunity for folks to contribute some docs if they'd like?
To Poly?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And this is just the README. This isn't the full documentation, but yeah, there's a wiki also. Where is the wiki?
Up top there, I think I saw it. Or unless you have it separately. The GitHub wiki's right there. 5th from the left.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay, there it is. There's the Poly wiki. So there's the roadmap, there's the contributing. And then all of the different ways that you can use Poly are talked about here. It's really cool. The wiki's got a lot more documentation.
That's tremendous documentation there, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's a question from TBD Gamer.
Okay.
When you were building the Blazor application, what lessons did you learn?
All the little lessons I learned were, I can't do it this way, I have to do it that way. I mean, they were just standard development stuff.
Okay.
The biggest lesson that I learned was one I already said, which is try catch everything. And you can see my code is not, I don't have try catch handlers on everything, but that's the next step for me, is implementing those try catch handlers, because like I say, your user's app will just stop working and they won't know why if you don't handle errors. And what happens is when an unhandled exception occurs in Blazor, Blazor just shuts down that connection.
Yeah.
It just shuts it down. And
it stops.
done. The connection, meaning the signal R connection that connects Blazor client to the server.
Right. To be clear, for folks that are watching, if you haven't seen Blazor server side before, right, these are all these components you saw Carl writing render on the server.
Right.
And there's a signal R connection that's pushing them when there's a change.
Yeah, exactly. So all of this code that happens, not right there, but all of this code that happens here is all happening on the client. I'm sorry, on the server.
On the server, yeah.
And anything that you change, like, selected show description, for example, that's a variable, and all of those variables, whenever they change, automatically just change on the client. And you know what's missing that I don't miss? I notify property change.
I notify property change. The bane of developers' existence.
It's like, why do I have to do that? I don't have to do any of that, because binding is absolutely critical. It's not an option. It's baked in, and it's so effing easy. Yeah, just look. Any of these things, right? At unchanged equals, option value equals at link ID toString, at link.text.
And when there's a change in that list, it just refreshes.
It just refreshes.
Repaints.
You don't have to do any of it.
Fuel Snable, along those lines, says, what are your thoughts on building dynamic content in Blazor, like a list of items or input elements driven by a model? Without the iNotify property change, looks like it's a heck of a lot easier.
It's a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's kind of what we're doing, right? Here's in any of these guest editors, right? I'm using this visible property. All I have to do is set a Boolean, and this shows.
it automatically notifies all the way down through the control tree.
Yeah.
That these things have changed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So I mean, that's about. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by dynamic content, meaning dynamic HTML based on values and variables from the server to the client. Is that what you're talking about?
Let us know, Fuel Stable. Is that Kane asks, "What's this language?" This is C# with HTML using a framework called Blazor, made by the ASP.NET team.
And it's essentially Razor, right? It's the Razor syntax, where you can insert variables into HTML, just like this. But what's cool about it is the code that you put inside the HTML is limited to this kind of stuff, like for each. I mean, you can do anything, of course, right in there, but you really don't want to.
No.
You want to do all your code, down here.
Right, so it's inside of a code block on the same page, but you can separate that out.
As Jeff said, you can also separate that out into a C# page, a C# file. You want to do that? You said you wanted.
If you want to take a shot, if it makes sense and helps make your code a little bit more testable or makes it a little bit easier to navigate. I'm one of these folks, Carl, that when I see a file doing more than one thing, right? Like the single responsibility principle goes off in my head, like, oh my gosh, it's doing too many things.
Yeah. So the way I think I do this is I add a file right here in Pages.
Yeah.
And I add a class that's called guestEditor.razor.c#, right? And it should automatically go under there. Yes. Now, Now I can put this code from my code.
You need to inherit from component base.
That's right. I do, don't I? Where am I? Here it is. And of course, we're not going to know about that until
Control dot for the win.
Yes. Now up here in my guest editor, I also have to do that code behind thing up here, right? Don't I?
Right. You have to say inherits up there.
Yeah. This is the first time I've done this, so inherits. Guest editor. Yeah?
Yep, I think you're right.
Okay, and now all the code in here.
You should be able to just copy and drop it right in there.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Cut.
Nice.
Paste. Errors.
There'll be errors to start.
I also need to have my using prop.
You know what we might need to do?
Data.
And a semi at the end of that.
And I might need to just have this.
I'm thinking you might need to rename the class to guest editor model, or because guest editor is also the name of the Razor file.
Right.
Yeah, and it'll generate in conflict. So you can change the inherit. Yeah, inherits. And some of those red lines should go away.
But I have to, if I want the C# file to match up, I have to do that. All right, so now let's find out where it's barfing here. Selected event args is a
using
Blazor inputs.
Yeah.
Come on, I did you already.
Yeah, it should pick that up.
Should pick that up. Sometimes it's just slow. I got to inject the show service, don't I?
So to inject that now, you need
I have to make that a parameter.
Right, a parameter, and it's you put inject on it as the attribute.
Right, or I could just add it as a variable. No, it's already injected.
Right.
All right, let's do this. Parameter injected as an attribute.
I'm grabbing one of my other ones over here, one of my other projects, just to make sure I get this syntax correct for you.
Inject.
The attribute is just called, inject. There you go. Yep, with the get set. And it was, it was component base we inherited from up at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, let's see what else is going on here. Now, what happened here? I thought
we had selected event args.
That's Sync Fusion.
Not that one.
That is Sync Fusion. Yeah, because that's the file uploader, which is a Sync Fusion file uploader.
Okay.
All right, good. So that works. Over here, I've got problems.
So we can drop the inject there on line 4.
Yeah, but you know what? I took away. Oh, okay. All of these things should be picked up in the guest editor model.
Right. Is search for guest model, is that public?
Oh. Yeah.
So you can go find it with control comma if you'd like.
Guest editor model.
Right, show add guest panel showed up. That properly appeared.
True.
Right? It's the next argument that you had, the next I think it was the next razor over, that one. So on line 9, search for guest's value there.
Yeah.
I think let's look for that in the new guest editor razor CS. There you go. So that's private. So we need to make that public.
Yeah, of course. All of these need to be public. Of course.
We've got it. I think we've got it, Mr. Franklin.
And all these need to be public. Yep. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
All these need to be public.
Load it up.
So, slight difference.
Slight change, and it's only because we changed scope of the file that they were being accessed from. And give it a second to redetect the file.
Another thing that is, new is that the
Uh-oh. Did I lose Carl? Uh-oh, there went the network connection. There went Skype. Come on back, Carl. The network connection just went. Let me see if I can get him back.
Looks like I hung there for a minute.
There we go. And we're back. So the suggestion from the chat room from DevManNL is we could also make it protected because it's a base class we're inheriting from. Sure.
Oh, I was actually on the wrong.
Oh, you're in the wrong file.
I was in the wrong file.
We're gonna fix it, and it's gonna work like magic. See that? At least
see what I did there?
Yeah.
And I wonder if all of these things need to be public or protected.
Public or protected, yeah.
Well, maybe not. Let's see. Where are we? Guest editor. Filtered guest selected. that is a method. Yeah.
It had a lower F on it. Oh, there it is.
I'll just make them public.
Sure. Yeah, Skype with network connection sometimes can be a little flaky.
Public.
On these longer connections. I was surprised we didn't have very much Skype flake out at all on .NET Conf. We made 40 some phone calls over Skype throughout the day. It was like, oh my gosh, it worked.
All right, so these guys here need to belong in the guest editor. These messages.
Are they being managed over there?
Yeah, they are. These are local. Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Where are they being set?
They're being set here. Yeah, I'm not sure why these need to be here.
You should be able to have them over in the other one.
I shouldn't I?
Well, they're fields, so are they being picked up properly?
There's no get set. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's why.
So if we make them.
I took them out.
Well, no, oops. You could leave the equals double quotes there so they're initialized.
Yep, that's exactly what I want to do. Come on.
And then the equals there at the end. Before the double quote. Yeah. That's the ticket. Solid network, says CoderCat. It's a pretty good network connection. It's just every now and again Skype will drop.
All right, shall we try it?
Let's see if it works, Pinky.
Code behind.
You have to ask me nicely.
We are asking nicely, Jack. It should be starting. Is that loud enough? Can you hear the sound effects over the...
I personally don't hear the sound effects. But
you didn't hear Jack?
Stream probably. I'm not listening to the stream.
No, I have it coming over my feed to you.
Nope, I didn't hear any of that.
Okay.
Oh, I heard that. Was that a gasp?
Well, that was me, though.
Oh.
What's that?
All right, guest editor.
You didn't hear that one either.
No. Oh, we should take Doofus Rufus. Your show.
I was a big fan of Doofus Rufus.
All right, let's add me. Yeah, looks like it's working. There you are.
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right, so there you go. Just a little bit of code, and you've got a code behind.
Right, and so that means now, right, when there's some more complex business logic in there that you're like, oh gosh, maybe I should test these, you've got it in an isolated class that you can test.
Yep.
Yeah. And, right, if you wanted to move, right, if we really wanted to get architecturally crazy, we could take all the things around file interactions and move them as a repository pattern. So... if you want to use Azure Storage, or maybe you want to use something else, or have a CDN, put them all out there.
Extract them away.
Yeah.
So
CoderCat.
Upload a raw file?
Sure. So CoderCat asks, which do what does Carl prefer? Oh, which format of the... of working with Blazor do you prefer, having the code inline or over in a class file?
I prefer it inline, but Jeff's right about testing, but this is just such a simple app. I like to see it all in one page.
I love the little progress bar, and that's a Sync Fusion control.
Yep, Sync Fusion file uploader.
Yeah. I get paranoid about and wanting to put things in those code behinds. I'm an old school web forms guy. What can I tell you? and it just feels I don't know. I like having my markdown clear. You know.
Yeah, sure.
Part of me starts to twitch when I see more than like the dozen lines of code in there. It makes sense to do the simple interactions right there, but more than that, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, right. Oh, so it uploaded successfully, and now
Nice.
after it uploads to, yeah, I swear I did this already. After it uploads to,
Yeah, there it is.
yeah, there it is. Yeah, so it is up in Azure storage. Wonder why we didn't see that in the code. I don't know why, but yeah, this is all coming from there.
Nice.
Oh, I know why. I moved all that code into my
Into your API controller?
and from my API control. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't do that part of it down in the API controller. I actually did it in my service. So on raw file uploaded.
Yeah. Okay.
Raw file uploaded, I do this show service upload chunked file, and that basically takes it from my file name that I uploaded it locally to, and then sends it up to Azure. That sends it to Azure right there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I wondered why that wasn't in the controller, but yeah, there was a reason for it.
And CoderCat chimes in saying that formatting and have those types of things, interactions to present the formatting in line, but the logic behind are in service layers with interfaces and unit tests.
Yeah.
So, right, you're actually coming back out and saying re-upload to Azure after it's been uploaded.
Well, I have to upload it to my server first, so my code sees it, and then from there I can upload it to Azure.
Yeah.
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 Yep. So, and there I get the container name and my raw file folder GUID string. So I create that in Azure, right? I can't go right from the client to Azure. I mean, I probably could, but I don't want to.
No, but
I want it to come to me first, and then I'll send it to Azure storage.
Sure. But you could chain those two methods together in the API controller.
Yes, I probably could do that. Yeah, I probably could do that.
So, all right.
I know why I didn't do that. I know why. Because this saved chunk doesn't know from the last one, the first one. It doesn't know. Right?
Oh, okay.
It doesn't know when the last chunk is, what if this chunk is the last chunk. I looked in this, form file thing. There's nothing that says, I mean, I suppose I could send the total bytes if I had access to that, and then see if this is the last chunk, and if it is, then send it up to Azure. I could do that. But that's why I didn't. I remember now.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Very cool. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I think that's. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Me?
Yeah. Anything else cool going on in your world? Where are you going to be next?
Playing a gig tonight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Will we
Another
see?
Blazor app I wrote called carlandamy.com, AMIE.
Yeah.
It's this girl that I do duo gigs with, and she's a great singer. But it was really easy for me to, just take a simple Blazor server side page and get some gig dates out of a database, and then add people to a mailing list. It was just trivial.
Nice.
But anyway, that's my gig tonight.
Cool. Will we see you at Microsoft Ignite, or is DEVintersection the next event for you?
DEVintersection's the next one for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we will see you in Las Vegas.
See you there.
Alrighty. Thanks so much, Carl. Appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and that was another Virtual Dev Intersection. Next week, I hope you join us. I forget who's on the list for next week, but we'll have another show next Thursday right back here on the Dev Intersection channel. Thanks so much, everybody.
Okay.
All right, we'll see ya.